No. You're preempting, huh? You don't even need to be here. Say it again, say it again. And this is a restaurant? Okay. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it. I don't even know if my mic is on. Yeah, I understood that. That's it. Tough competition. And are you going to be speaking to introduce me from the podium, right? Okay, sure. Anything you want me to say or do? Anything you need? I was going to turn. No, I'm going to put it on now. Testing. Testing. Can you hear it? Testing. You can hear it? Ah, there we go. Ooh,
I think
that's
it's on.
hot.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Mike Haney, and I'm the chairman of the AFSA Human Resources Committee and Executive Vice President of Human Resources for First Franklin Financial. HR managers today are struggling to bridge the gaps between the many generational differences that we find in our workforce. Many companies have 4 and sometimes even 5 different generations in the workforce. We hope that this session today will provide you with some strategies to help your company deal with these differences. Here's one for you. Considering that Gen Y uses social media so heavily, please try following our conversation today on Twitter by using the hashtag AFSA meetings. Good luck with that. We're fortunate to be joined today by subject matter expert Halele Azule. Halele is a consultant, facilitator, and speaker with over 20 years of professional experience in workplace learning and communication. She is the author of Employee Development on a Shoestring, a book providing managers and supervisors hands-on tools and techniques for developing employees outside the classroom. Halele is president of Talent Grow, LLC, a consulting company specializing in leadership, communication skills, team building, facilitation, coaching, and emotional intelligence with all organizational levels, including C-level leaders, frontline managers, and individual contributors. She is a sought-after speaker at conferences and meetings and is a contributing editor to numerous books, articles, and blogs. Please join me in welcoming Halele Azule.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you for that kind introduction, Mike. I appreciate it. And thank you all for having me here today. I am looking forward to working with you, sharing information, and actually asking you to share some information one with the other. I know that this is a very hot topic. In fact, I tried to squeeze as many buzzwords into the title as I could to draw you in, right? We all see those lists of buzzwords to avoid using, and engagement is probably on there, generations we've heard a lot. So the buzzwords are there, but is there anything behind them, right? Are they just buzzwords, or is there anything more to it? Mike mentioned some ideas about why you might be interested in this, but what I'd love for you to do very quickly right away is to talk to the one person or 2 people next to you and think about, is it just the buzz, or does this matter? Are you really supposed to try to engage people from different generations, and do the generations make that work to be something more difficult or different than to just engage employees, period, and just scratch that part off, right? So just have a 1 or 2 minute conversation very quickly with the folks at your table. I really want to just get a sense of where we stand with this. All right. What's the buzz? Is it nothing but buzz? It's more than buzz. I'm hearing from this table, more than buzz. How many people think it's more than buzz? We need to pay attention to it. All right, good. I know that a couple of others thought it was buzz and left, so, there's things to do. So if you think that it's more than buzz, I have some ideas for you today, okay? So this is really what we can do now. We could probably spend a week about this topic. I know that you can get 30 million articles a day about this topic, so it's a very big item to deal with, much more than just buzz, and much more than we can possibly cover in the 75 minutes we have together. So what we're going to focus on today is, first of all, make sure we're talking about the same thing. So we're going to set the foundation for what is engagement, first of all, and what should you be thinking about when you're thinking about how to engage employees, just to make sure we're on the same page, but also to make sure that I help establish for you the true value in numbers for why you should care about this, because there's a sense that you care about it, but really to bring it to life. And then what I'd like to do is help you focus on one particular way that you can engage employees, right? Because there's a lot of ways, and I'm going to show you a long list. So you're going to walk away with many things that you could start doing. And we're going to walk down a particular path to help you think, I hope, outside the box about the so many resources that you already have, that your employees are already valuing, already using, that will help you not only engage each of them wherever they are, but also to help create bridges between the generations. Sound like a good deal? And if we really have a good go at it, ideally you'll walk away with some implementable ideas, actionable ideas, some strategies for what can you do when you walk back into your office and after you clean out your inbox, that you can really start making improvements in how engaged your employees are, regardless of what generation they belong to, and maybe in light of what generation they belong to. All right? So I promised the definition. Let's go there first. By the way, I have created a resource for you. You can follow along. So if you want to land on the first page right after the cover, at the very top, you don't have to write all of this down. But I really want us to focus on, what does engagement mean? What does engagement mean? We throw this word around. So the definition, and I would like to just say that this is the traditional definition. Because today I'm going to try to enhance your definition. So the traditional way of thinking about engagement is when an employee is engaged, they are passionate about work, they are connected to the organization, they are motivated to do the work, and they're willing to put in discretionary effort. Go that extra mile in order to benefit the organization, and of course, they benefit themselves as well. So does that sound like the definition you had in mind? Something similar to what you had in mind? Yeah. So what are some of the options, really? If you think about this definition, then you could say that there are really three ways to look at employees. Are they engaged? Are they non-engaged? Or are they actively disengaged? So on page 2, I have a list of some of the descriptors of what this might look like. So a highly engaged employee. This is someone we just described as motivated, connected, excited, willing to give discretionary effort, asking for extra work, going the extra mile, excited about coming to work every day, doing what they love, using their talents, using their strengths. Now, the non-engaged, I have them sort of in the middle of the teeter-totter, or the seesaw, whatever you call that, because they're kind of riding the fence, right? They're not actively disengaged, but they're also not highly engaged. And actually, for the most part, they swing between those. They can slide easily because they are not really taking a strong stance. So they're kind of phoning it in, right? They're giving neutral effort. They're getting the job that they need to get done so that you don't fire them. But not much more. Now, they can have little peaks, right? They might have a project they really love, right? Or a client they really care about, or some new idea. So they can have those kinds of little peaks, and also they might have their bad days. Now, the actively disengaged, you know what, you see how the green, yellow, red? Actively disengaged. Those are people that have decided where they stand, and they don't stand with you. They're coming to work. They're collecting the paycheck, but they are negative in their approach to the organization, and they look for partners. They look for other people to commiserate with, right? They make work hard for us in that sense, and they form a pretty big challenge. So obviously what you want to do is create as many engaged employees, reduce and or eliminate the number of actively disengaged employees, and help the people that are sitting on the fence, sitting in the middle, slide in the right direction. Sounds easy enough, right? Well, so remember how I said I'm going to enhance your definition of engagement, right? We said the traditional definition was that they are motivated, connected, and here's the key word. Let's go back to that. Keyword, willing. Well, in this new definition, what we call sustainable engagement, there is so much research that's coming out over the last few years that shows that being willing is not the same as being able. So I may be very excited, motivated, connected, and willing to give discretionary effort, but maybe there is something that stands in my way from doing that. Or maybe I don't have sustainable energy to help me weather whatever challenges come my way. Or maybe I don't have enough of that energy and that sustainable energy to help me overcome those actively disengaged employees who are trying to pull me over to their little commiseration sessions. So those are people, when you think about engaged employees, that's great. But what you really want to try to do is help the engaged employees also be enabled and energized. So by enabled, well, let's go back. So engaged. And if you want, you can look on page 3. There is some area for you to take some notes. So engaged, we kind of described it, right? This is someone who really is excited about the organization's goals, is clear about what the organization's goals are, and feels connected to that. Someone who is able to use their strengths at work, and someone who cares about the organization, is excited about working there. They have that willingness to give discretionary effort. Enabled means that not only do they, well, in addition to having engagement, also they have the right resources. So they can be excited and willing, but the resources they need to do their work are not available, they're not going to be enabled. So do they have the right resources available to them? And are obstacles being removed from their way? Does their manager and their organization try to actively reduce and remove the obstacles that may get in their way of doing their job right, the way they're willing and interested in doing? And are they able to fight against whatever challenges come up, to overcome them? So that's enabled and energized. They're able to maintain a high level of energy. And caffeine is not enough. High level of energy, more. They are actually energized by having a supportive group of peers. They feel supported on a social level at work. And they're able to create ways to refuel their energy. So, sustainable engagement means that it's not just being willing, but also being able. being able, from both a resource perspective and also from an energy perspective. Okay, I know you want some statistics, right? Because that proves things. So I pulled a bunch of statistics for you, and I printed almost all of them. I'm about to give you the ones that I didn't print. All right. How many of you know what percentage of the US workforce is currently being tagged as engaged? What percentage? Let's just say, I'll show a range, I'll tell you a range, and you raise your hands. Do you think that it's over 70% of the US workforce that's engaged? Heads are shaking no. Okay. How about 50 to 75%? No. How about 1%? No, that would be really, 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 really bad. You would not need this session. You need a lot of other kind of help. What was it? 15, okay. More. 35. Yes. Who said 35? Bingo. Yeah, so it's about 35%. There's some statistics that show 30 to 35, so about a third. About a third of the workforce is highly engaged. In other words, they're high on all those three aspects of sustainable engagement, right? They're engaged, they're enabled, they're energized. What percentage is in that bottom there, in the red? Disengaged, actively disengaged. What do you think? Yeah, so it's about a fourth. So that's good news. It's not a third. About a fourth, 26%. Now, again, different studies show different numbers slightly, but most studies show about a quarter of the workforce. Now, that's a lot of people. That's 1 in 4. That's 1 in 4 that's negative, that's actually trying to operate against you while getting your paycheck. Works magic, right? All right. So, what was that? A question? No. Okay, so 40% are in the middle. 22 and 17 is the numbers you're looking for. 22% feel that they have that traditional engagement, but they're lacking either enablement or energy. And 17% feel enabled, but they don't have that willingness. Nothing stands in their way, but they're not connected. They're not motivated. They're not feeling it. What do we do? What do we do about this, and do we really care? Yes, we do. Because even though it doesn't directly lead to profits and to bottom lines, it does indirectly feed into all of the avenues that feed into the bottom line. Higher employee engagement directly impacts service to clients, right? If I'm checked out or if I'm actively disengaged, that's going to come across to any client and even internal service providers, right? That's going to come out in my work, in the quality, in the quantity, and everything about my work. What about retention? You have a hard time keeping people, right, when they're not connected to the organization. So it directly impacts retention. What about productivity? Are people going to be more productive when they're excited, enabled, motivated than when they're checked out? You betcha. So those things drive customer satisfaction, customer loyalty, and then profits and the bottom line results for the organization. This is why we should care. This is my business case. Further, there is a study, great, by the way, some of the resources I've pulled for you from this are really fantastic resources. If you're looking for a good white paper with good numbers in it, the Gallup State of the American Workplace 2013 is a fantastic resource, and also the Towers-Watson article that I referred to, or the white paper that I referred to, is a great study to show some of the business case behind some of these things. So what they're showing is firms that are on the highest engagement level, and by the way, Gallup says that on average in most firms it's about 2 to 1, 2 engaged for everyone that's not engaged. And the firms that are highest in engagement have more of a between 9 and 10 to 1 ratio. And what they can boast is higher profitability, higher productivity, higher customer engagement, lower absenteeism, lower turnover, and lower defects. Those are good things, right? Now again, intuitively, does that make sense? Do you produce good work when you're excited, motivated, able, willing? Yeah. So how do we get employees to do that? And today we're even thinking about how do we get them, even though they're all very different, and what we know about generations in the workplace is that they have kind of different ways of looking at things. And then one more statistic for you, if it wasn't enough, just a little bit more about the margin. The sustainable engagement has much, much higher impact, positive impact, on the margin, on the operating margin, than traditional engagement by itself. All right? I hope that so far you're with me. What we want to do is engage employees, but further we want to sustainably engage them. And that means that we help them create that traditional engagement level, but also help enable and energize them to do it. How? What are the drivers of engagement? So you ready? We have another 3 hours together. So we can talk about each of these. Now, all right, talk to the people around you. I want you to look at this list, and I want you to figure out, well, okay, before you talk, let's think. Think before you talk. So think, as you look at this list, and you have it in your workbook as well, what are the ones that you think are most important for your organization? Which on this list do you think is the trump card? Which one is the most important one? Or do you disagree that there is even anything that's more important than the others? And all of them need to work in unison. So I want you to think about that. You can put an asterisk next to it, circle it, or whatever. And in a second, I'm going to ask you to think and talk a little bit about that with the folks at your table. Which is the most important one? All right. Have a short talk about it. About 2 minutes. Let's see what you come up with. Use 30 more seconds. Thank you for saying that. What's the verdict? They're all important. Oh no, you're supposed to choose one. You can't choose? Did anyone? Managers? Anybody choose something different, or did you all think it was all, or managers you thought? Yeah.
Everybody in the room
Well, actually, yes, yes. You are the doorway. You are the key to success. Okay. All right.
A bad manager, everything else just goes down the drain.
I mean, how many times have we heard this? People leave what? People don't leave organizations, they leave managers. Right? Now, we've heard about that a lot, but now we have some numbers to back it up. And we can try to understand a little more about what's behind it. Now, everything I do, all of the work that I do, is centered around leadership development because I think that developing managers and developing leaders is the key. I really believe in that. Because there are people who will develop their technical skills. You got to know, right, how to write the loan, right? You got to know how to do the collections. You got to know how to sell the business. All of that stuff is important. I'm not knocking it. But usually people are vetted into the organization and they have the technical skills. Or the organization is fantastic about developing those. But what we're not so good at is putting people in management positions that have the skills already to be a good manager, because having technical abilities does not necessarily make you a good manager. And most people are promoted for technical excellence. And then, be that as it may, do we do enough to develop them so that they can do what they need to do as a manager, which is very, very different from what they did as a technically astute individual contributor, in order that they keep the right people and don't somehow facilitate them leaving in droves, or worse, continuing to collect the paycheck after they've mentally left, checked out, right? Or emotionally checked out. It's not something that comes easy, and it is something that's really important. So all of these things actually are related in many ways. All of them are related to leadership and management. We've sliced them out. But having clear goals and objectives, is that the role of leadership and managers? Yeah. So if an employee can connect to that and understands where they're going, they have a much better way of connecting their energy to it, right? And connecting their enthusiasm around it and making sure they're doing the right thing. If they have the right energy balance, in other words, you're not overburdening them, overworking them, causing them to completely run out of fuel, or they have too little to do and are bored out of their minds, right? Then that's something that as a manager, that's part of your job. So all of these are important, and leadership and management in this list are a little bit different because leadership sets the tone from the top down, whereas management is there on the ground. And what we're hearing from people from all generations is they kind of want to feel like someone cares, their manager cares about them. That comment is often heard from baby boomers, by the way. Baby boomers will tell you what they really want is to feel their manager cares. So I can tell you, though, the one that has the biggest impact on energy. I got that blank on that worksheet if you're curious about it. Which is the one that if you really make an extra effort in that particular item, you will most positively and reliably impact energy? Recognition. Not the trophies, Jim, not the trophies, though. What do people want? They don't want more money. Actually, we have studies. If you really want to dig into this, there's studies that show that when you throw more money at people beyond a certain threshold, you actually cause them to become less engaged, not more engaged. Shocking. People want to feel appreciated and to feel like what they do makes a difference and that someone notices it. And nothing more than a thank you is often all it'll take. So this is my little extra nugget for you, my golden nugget for you. If nothing else, if you really want to make an impact on employee engagement, and we all agreed that all of those things are important. I'm not saying the other ones are not. But if you really want to start somewhere, most people don't feel recognized enough. And therefore, you are not likely to err if you start there. Very quickly, Hilleli's formula for giving recognition is the STS formula. It has to be specific, has to be timely, and it has to be sincere. Because when you're fake, They can smell it from a mile away. Specific, timely, sincere, STS. Look for opportunities to recognize people's effort. You're going to make a huge impact on the engagement of your employees. And all those other things. All right, well, here's where we're going to focus in, okay? So we've been talking very big picture. What is engagement? Why should we care? How do we impact engagement in a positive way? I want to take you down that narrow path now, like I promised, because this has been my focus. Now, in my career, I've focused very much on learning and development. It is not all there is to being a good manager and to being a good organization, but it's pretty important. So what I do find, though, does that feed into any of these? Learning and development? Employee development? What does it impact? Or where does it have an intersection? Opportunity to use strength? What were we saying?
Opportunity to use strength.
Oh, good. We were saying the same thing. I love that. Great minds think alike. What else? Leadership, right? A leader's job is to develop his or her people. Now, which generation is most gung-ho about being developed at work? Let's see if you've been reading. Yeah, the millennials. This is what we're hearing from them. They want feedback, right? And they want to know that the job that they have right now, because it's not the job they plan to have for life, but they want to know that the job that they have for now, they will give their discretionary effort in exchange for being developed. Having an opportunity to use their strengths and grow their skills. This is their biggest focus area. Now, do the other generations not care about that anymore? Baloney, of course they care about that. Now, millennials and traditionals, actually traditionalists, those are the oldest members of our workforce. Those actually tend to show up in engagement studies and the research. They tend to show up as more engaged than the Generation X and the baby boomers. Now, we can try to figure out why. Most likely it's because they're either very established in their career and they know where they are and they know the value that they can contribute and they're happy to be contributing that value as the traditionalists. And also the millennials. They're at the beginning. They're excited. They're motivated. They haven't had enough time to burn out yet. So they tend to be much more engaged relative to the others. Generation X and boomers kind of been around for a while, have their own issues going on. So even though, in a way, I'm showing you a dichotomy, I'm telling you that the most highly engaged are the traditionalists, but the millennials are up there. They are highly engaged, and they're highly likely to leave. 47% of millennials, when asked, indicate that they do intend to leave within the next 12 months if the job market improves. That's half of them. Why? They're eager to move on. And what do they want to do? Learn. Develop their skills. Feel like they're contributing. And they're not that patient about, waiting, paying their dues, waiting for 20 years, all that stuff. It ain't going to happen. So we need to keep this in mind. And we need to figure out how to connect between all of the different participants in the organization in a way that not only helps the organization out, but also helps them help each other. How do we tap into the strengths that they each bring to the table to connect to our goal of creating more engagement? So my focus with you is on doing that through employee development. And how many of many of you are in the HR field? You might have seen the 2010, the 70-20-10 rule bandied about. Have you seen this statistic before? People love to talk about it. In fact, people that I go to conferences with my professional organization, they love to argue about it. It's not true. Where did you get that? It's baloney. I don't really care about the numbers in this case. But what I want to ask you this. When you learned what you know today, that makes you an engaged employee, a knowledgeable employee. Did you learn that in a training class? The bulk of it? Not the bulk of it. There are things you learn in a training class because that's the best way to do it. But the majority of learning, the necessary learning, necessarily happens outside a classroom, outside of e-learning. Most of it happens either through the relationships and feedback that you have with your peers and your managers and through on-the-job experiences. That's what that rule means. All that says is most of us and most of the employees we are trying to engage want to learn, and most of the learning that they will do, by definition of how people learn their jobs, is going to happen on the job. And we don't want to be completely hands-off about it. There are things we can do to insert our expertise and our guidance to ensure that what happens to them on the job is not haphazard, that it's high quality, that it gives them what they need, and that it happens well enough and frequently enough to keep them coming back for more. So there are so many different tools. There are so many ways to help people develop skills and knowledge outside of a classroom, because the classroom is either not available, too expensive, too much time away from their desk, or just not the way to learn whatever it is that they're trying to learn. But what we call informal learning is huge. There are so many ways to define it. There are so many examples of what we mean by on-the-job or informal learning outside the classroom. And I really just want to show you three examples. When I wrote my book, this was my entire focus, and I gave 11 examples. What is it? Who's it for? How do you do it? What are the obstacles? How do you implement it? How do you sell it in the organization? Templates, tools, all of that. But I really want to just show you 3 different ways just to whet your appetite, just to get you thinking a little bit outside the box and outside the classroom. And I want to do it with the lens of intergenerational bridge building, right? Because we've been talking about how do we increase employee engagement. And given that different employees, based on where they are in their life, have different levels of engagement and also different needs, and the available tools and resources that we already have, that we don't need to build some kind of fancy, expensive program, how do we leverage those and make them into learning vehicles and help create bridges that then fuel engagement? 3 that I'm going to share with you. Digital storytelling, and I will tell you what that means. Social learning, which is a buzzword, right? Everybody hears about that. What does that mean? And mentoring, which has been around since Odysseus, when he went to war and left his friend Mentor to take care of his son and help teach him what he needs to do to become a man. That's how that word came about. So these ways, digital storytelling first. What do you mean by that, Haleli? Digital storytelling. How many of you use video or podcasts to learn? By show of hands, do you use videos or podcasts to learn? Some of you. How many of your employees like to learn using videos and podcasts? A good fair amount. I'm telling you that there are statistics out there that show that we're inching towards having something like 84% of internet consumption in a video channel-based consumption. Right around 2020, we're going to be at the point where most of our consumption of information on the internet is going to be via video. Video is here to stay. But most of the time, we are looking for how to give people videos that they can learn from. So we focus on consumption. What I'd like to get you to think about, again, that outside the box, is that the consumption is fantastic, and we're going to talk about it a little bit when we talk about social learning. But what about the production? Could you leverage production of videos and podcasts and recordings that are digital as a way for different levels of employees to tell stories or capture stories and produce content for their peers or your clients to consume? How many of you have seen a video that taught you something that was maybe about 3 minutes long and was shot on some kind of a, iPhone or not very high production, and the person was not an actor? Have you seen those? YouTube is full of them, right? YouTube is full of them. Gone are the days when we expect the production value of those 20-minute, $795 videos that teach you something with people with bad 80s hair. People don't want to consume it that way. They love to consume it when it looks really gritty. Why? Because if it's relevant and it's a credible source, what do I care about how they shot it? And they don't need a studio, and I don't want it to be 20 minutes long. Right? So we can add, do people already have a video camera in their pocket? Most of them do. Right? I mean, think about that. We walk around with a video camera. We walk around with a recording device all the time. Why not put that to good use? So, digital storytelling just means creating opportunities for employees of any level, of any seniority level, of any generation, helping them produce, plan, design, record, disseminate short videos that others will like to view, that help others learn. What does the producer learn from this? Okay, so they can get recognition. Hey, didn't we just say you want to create more opportunities for recognition? Bingo. Okay. What else can the person making the digital storytelling content, what can they learn? They can learn speaking skills.
The underlying technical skill. I mean, if you're going to teach something, you have to know pretty in-depth
Yeah.
to do whatever.
Yeah. And how many of you became better at whatever it is after you had to teach someone something? Right? So embedded in teaching or creating or thinking through, how do I organize this? What's the best flow? What content is important and what needs to be left out so that it doesn't become a 20-minute video? They learn something better. What else can they gain from this in terms of their own development? Organization skills? Project management skills? Product skills? All right, let me give you an example. You have a class full of onboarding orientation type of new hires. And instead of putting a huge big binder in front of them and telling them, this is the information about our organization, all of the different departments, please read it. You tell them, here are 5 people, 1 in each of those departments. I want you to go and do a short interview with each of them and record it. And then come back to the class and show your video. Now they have networking skills. Now they have an insight into other people in the organization on their first week of the job, right? They're making connections. Now they know someone in IT. Now they know someone in HR. Now they know someone in production. And they know what those people do. And they created a network. And they've created content that other people can learn from. That's just one example. The TELUS is a telecommunications company in Canada, the biggest one, I think, there, TELUS. What they have is they have their technicians out there climbing up the ladder in the field to fix the lines, right? And when they see something that is a little bit of a problem that they either don't know how to solve or that they have a workaround for, they pull out their pocket video camera, otherwise known as their phone, and they videotape a short little demonstration of the problem that they're trying to solve or of the how-to that they are encountering that they can have a teaching moment. And then they upload it right away to the intranet back at home. And the experts, whether they're sitting in Ottawa or Vancouver or wherever they are, and whether this person has ever met them or not, can right away see that that popped up and answer the question. Or the person who's struggling with that same need can right away see what this person has uploaded as their how-to video. And it doesn't cost anything. It's just a mindset. Digital storytelling. Social learning. Social learning is just a catch-all name that we give to online tools that are there for the purpose of helping people share information, share resources, create connections. Remember that one item that was on the list of feeling connected to their peers? Social networking with their peers is a great way to do that. And how do they interact with content and with each other? Because we are different now about how we consume, and your different organizations in the workplace are different about how they consume content. They don't want it static, right? How many of you have gone online to research the answer to something, found an article by what seemed like a credible expert, and then read all the comments on that article and learned more? Right? Someone says, oh yeah, I did that, but I tweaked it just a little bit. Oh, actually, well, what about this? And then the expert answers. And there's this whole richness in the comments. This is possible with social networking tools. So here are some examples. Wikis. What are wikis? Anybody heard of it? Yeah? So it's a way for people to share content, write it up. How many of you have used Wikipedia? It's the most famous wiki in the world, right? It's an encyclopedia that is the content is uploaded by the users and edited by the users and QA'd by the users for free. We can have wikis about any content in your organization. People can share their knowledge and continually enhance these kinds of ways of creating lasting assets, knowledge assets in your organization. Discussion boards, as the name implies. Blogs. You have someone who really knows how to do something, but they kind of keep to themselves in their cubicle, or their time is on for leaving out the door and retiring. Oh, knowledge management. Maybe their way of getting recognition is being seen as that expert and creating a legacy and blogging about what they know. But now people can comment on it. Now people can ask them questions. Now their name is searchable with that expertise area inside of your social networking, inside of your firewall. And that becomes a knowledge asset, and it creates engagement. Video uploading. Did a question pop up? Yes, sir.
I understand this, it's got to be controlled because you said earlier, 42% of the people are disengaged.
Yeah. Are you in legal?
And they're looking for partners. No, I'm not.
Okay.
But the real risk of this is you provide
It's
a
true.
platform for those disengaged to find their partner.
Yes, that is true. So most of the time, those people are not going to really want to make that so public and in writing, most of the time. And there are ways for us to create moderation. I don't mean moderation like, eat some of your potato. I mean moderation like have a moderator. And so things, a comment can be only published once approved. And those can be community volunteers, right? So you can have a moderator for various blogs or areas of communities of practice that you might create, or discussion boards, and they'll monitor each other out. This is one of the biggest, people talk about Wikipedia in that way, right? Since anybody can change it, what if it's all junk? But it's amazing how many people are constantly QCing it. It's amazing. So those people that know that it's wrong or know that it's negative will go back in there and correct it. And it'll actually help those that are doing the wrong thing kind of be shown out. And there are ways that you can control it. So Definitely. Valid concern. Video uploading platform just means, hey, if they're creating video, they got to be able to upload it somewhere, right, for consumption. And then the podcasts in the same way. All right, getting some ideas already? Now, mentoring. People can learn and can teach on both ends of that relationship. Most of the time, we think about mentoring as benefiting the protege or the mentee. Of course. The mentoring relationship exists for their sake. But does the mentor get a chance to develop his or her skills? Yeah, let's pop up some skills a mentor could develop by mentoring. Patience. Empathy.
I said a different perspective.
Perspective. Gaining technical skills from the person you're mentoring, right? Now, think about that, right? The mentor and mentee both wear both hats because each one of them has expertise in something. So maybe I'm very new to the organization or new to the workforce, but I really know a lot about blogging, about recording video, about podcasting, about social networking, or whatever it is. I already have an expertise in. And my mentor knows a lot about the organization, knows the who's who, has maybe a lot of experience with the technical skills. Maybe they really have a lot of experience with leadership and management skills. So we can both learn. Yes. So it's a learning opportunity for both of the involved people. And it doesn't cost anything but a little bit of their time. Discretionary effort. Do you think that this can help create engagement? Yeah? Having a mentor at work or having someone to mentor? All right. So here's a question to you, about 3 minutes at your table. What do you think right now, from what you've learned about just these 3 informal learning tools, that already you can see can create bridges of engagement across the different generations? How can this be leveraged to create more engagement across the generations? With your table, 2 or 3 minutes. What questions do you have? Go for it. Use 1 more minute. All right, 30 seconds to wrap up. I love to see you so engaged. Put on. All right, sorry, I keep my day job. So, what did you come up with? Ideas. I'm really excited to hear some of your ideas because you know what? That's the answers. The answers are already in you and the folks around you. And if you only just started to think about that, ask some people around you some questions, you'll have a really long list of things you can begin to implement. You don't need a book or a manual.
I would throw out that you have to have a willingness to change.
True.
So you have a generational gap, and there's that desire that the new generation wants to come in and make some change, but you got the older generation that could be complacent, stuck in their ways, or they're just afraid of it. So once that willingness is there, then you can build a trust. So I come from a family business, so I
Yeah.
can speak to the change
Yeah.
process that we went through.
Well, I appreciate that. And so, do you mean in general about even employing any of these kinds of tools and techniques, the willingness to try them out?
That's right. I mean, if you use an example of an older company that had no technology,
Yeah.
now you need to bring technology in.
Yeah.
There's that comfort level of, I have the knowledge of the industry, and ledger cards work, but
Yeah. You know, one time I was, just a little share with you about that. I was doing a webinar that was free to anyone to come. It didn't belong to a particular client. So I told my family, I said, hey, if you're curious, you can never see me in action. If you're curious, you can listen into this webinar from wherever you are and hear what I'm doing. And it was about social learning. My dad listened. And so afterwards, I said, well, Dad, what did you think? And he said, well, I really liked it. It was very interesting. I learned some things. But, this social learning thing, I wasn't sure what that meant. But I think we used to call that asking people questions. You're right. It's not new. So the technology allows us to do it more quickly from anywhere. But the idea behind it, the social part, is as old as the days we were in the caves, right? There's actually a brand new book that just came out. It's called Social, and it talks about some of the research that's coming out about neuroscience and the brain that explains our drive for being social as one of the most important drives for humans, more important than shelter and food and all of those other things. It's very fascinating. Anyway, I digress. Yes?
Just a point, a point on that. I think that is very true because if you look at, and I don't want to think about torture, but torture techniques is isolation.
It's not a good employee development method, by the way, torture. I just wanted to be very clear. Yes.
The other extreme is isolation. So
Isolation.
there's got to be something to
Yes.
the human needing some sort of interaction.
Yes. Now, back to your question. So isolation is bad, and some people, introverts, extroverts, some people kind of like to. Introverts can write their thoughts in a blog for extroverts to go read and talk about, right? And if we can enhance their comfort level by maybe partnering them up with someone who already has a comfort level so that it isn't a huge bridge to cross for them, that they kind of have someone who can show them the ropes and do the part that's scary, and they can do the part about maybe just talking, right? Talking about what they know, or answering some questions, which feels very much like the old school way of doing things, and then having that person recording them or writing the blog for them, or writing a blog nowadays is really like writing a Word document. I mean, it has the bold and the italic and the, it's the same. So there are ways for them to get over that hump quite easily if we, in fact, leverage what we're talking about here today. Partner them up with people who are ready to show them how to do it. Yeah.
We were talking about that exact thing.
Oh, good.
We have within our company, we have website, employee access, they can blog. Nobody does, right? I mean, we launched it 2 years ago.
Yeah.
We spent millions of dollars to do it.
Yeah.
And I think the last comment was posted in
Yeah.
2011. But answering the question about the engagement, there's a lot, Elvis and I run pretty big divisions with a lot of employees. There's employees we have working for us that this is their life now, right? It's foreign to us, right? We're the old school school dinosaurs, but what? We're the
Nah.
traditionalists, yeah.
No, no, you're not. No, you're not. So you're talking about bridges.
For us to reach out and say, hey, we want to do more of this, we we need your help.
Yes.
So, we
Yeah.
get our, 20, 30-some-year-olds
Yeah.
to, they've got the technical expertise,
Yeah.
they,
And they have the technical expertise, and they're dying to build their skills, and they're always asking for new projects, and they do need to learn about the organization more, and they do need to learn some project management skills. And so here we have a perfect project for them, and we can partner them with someone who can, give them the grounding or give them the information. I mean, there's so many ways that we can leverage this to do exactly what we've been figuring out. What can we do for those people, right? And it leverages the benefits that they can bring to our organization, so everybody wins. Everybody wins. So we can talk about that for a long time, but we really, we don't have a lot of time, and so I want to just give you some of the information. Like, how is it good? Sharing information. How is it good? Creating connections. Having access to experts. How many of the millennials don't know those people, are afraid to walk into their corner office, or don't live in the same city, right, now with our dispersed workforce? But social tools create access and allow people to connect, whereas before, it would have not been possible. A fantastic way for onboarding. Really good for allowing subject matter experts to share their knowledge and to capture that for posterity. So knowledge management, market intelligence, performance improvement, and of course, we can use it for team development. All right. I listed these, the benefits, on your page 7. So I'm not going to go through them with you, because what I really want to do, there are many benefits, both to the learner and to the organization, for implementing more informal learning as a way to develop people and as a way to enhance engagement and as a way to create bridges across the different generations. But here's what I really want you to do before you leave this session. And you can use the page of blank note-taking space that I gave you on page 8. And I want you to think about these 3 questions. What can you do? I don't want you to think about the pie in the sky stuff that scares you and you don't know how to even start. From what you know and you already have, what can you do immediately to move even a tiny baby step in this direction of some of the ideas that you've had today to create more sustainable engagement? How can you leverage informal and social learning opportunities in your organization to build some bridges across the generations? And of all of the ideas, because I know that I hope I've generated more than one idea for you, how can you focus in on what will give you the biggest bang for the buck in terms of the benefits it will give your organization if you started doing it? Now, if you want my 10 tips for how to implement social learning, just give me your card or your email, and I'm happy to send that to you to get you a little bit more information about that. But my biggest suggestion to you is baby steps. Start somewhere. Do something. You don't have to get it all right. You don't have to have a very big, shiny new program. You don't have to orchestrate it throughout the entire organization. You can just do it with one team or with one person. That's the beauty of this. It is completely scalable. You don't need approval for a budget. You just need to start. So I hope that you will download a couple of your thoughts about this. And if you don't have enough time to think about it now, I hope that you will think about it before you leave here today and face whatever faces you tomorrow. Tomorrow, right? It's not Friday. Because this is where you can make an impact. So I'll take a couple of questions. I know we're just about out of time. Yes?
What do you think, or have you read The 5 Languages of Appreciation?
Yeah, I've heard of that book.
Okay,
Different ways. That's true.
And it's very important to understand
Yeah.
how someone likes to be.
Yeah.
For it to be meaningful.
Yeah. So I appreciate that you asked me. The 5 languages of appreciation say that people like to be recognized in different ways. So the shortcut would be, most people would like to be recognized in the way that's recognized versus not recognized. That would be the first little, binary decision. And then if you're at it already, just start with something and recognize them wrong rather than not recognize them. Don't worry too much about getting it perfect. And then, like your, recognition 201 would be to learn about how do people like to be recognized. And you don't really need a book. You know what you need? Ask them. How do you like to be recognized? I would like to do more recognition. I realize it's not something I've been focusing on as much, and I also know that different people like different kinds of recognition. How may I recognize you in a way that feels good to you? What do you like? Shocking. How many of you have had that conversation with any of your managers recently? It doesn't happen a lot. Right there, you're significantly shifting the course of things. Great comment. What other questions do you have? Yes? Can you bring back the actively disengaged from their abyss? Well, there are different theories about this. Some people say it's not worth your effort. And so what you want to do is really first focus on the engaged. Just yesterday, I saw an article that said you need to re-recruit your top performers. We often don't focus on them because we're fixing the people that are checked out, and they check out. They leave, or they slide down the slide. So focus on your top performers and your engaged folks, and then focus on those people that are kind of in the middle of the teeter-totter. That's not how you say it. Seesaw or teeter-totter. And you'll get better benefits, and those people are going to kind of become more outcasts. And there's hopefully going to be fewer of them. All right? So that would be my perspective on that. Now, performance management is a whole big other topic, and those people need performance management. I would say, though, that one by one, if you look at them as individual cases, often there is just some place in the road where something went wrong that you could probably start to undo. Maybe there is a way they could engage better because they're not getting to use their strengths, or because they're not really feeling recognition. So it is possible. I just wouldn't start with your energy there, because you don't have the biggest return on that investment. All right. Well, thank you very much for being engaged with me today. I hope that you have learned something, that you can add value to your success and to your organization's success on your way from this conference with, I know, a million other ideas. I am around if you have any questions, and I wish you a lot of luck, continued success, and a fantastic, fantastic day here in DC. Thank you for having me.